You're at a party. The music's loud, the room is packed, everyone's performing the best version of themselves. And in the back of your head, one quiet sentence is running on loop. When can I leave? You're not depressed, you're not antisocial, you're not broken. You just figured out something most people spend their whole lives avoiding. The version of fun everyone agreed on isn't actually fun. Not for you. And science is starting to agree. If you're the kind of person who turns down invitations and then feels weirdly relieved about it, by the end of this, you'll understand something about your own brain that most people will never figure out. And the real reason you're like this, it's not what your therapist would assume. It's not even what you'd assume.
For a long time, psychology had this clean story. Extroverts get energy from people. Introverts get drained by people. Stay alone too long? Something must be wrong with you. But that story is starting to fall apart. And here's where it gets weird. Picture this. You've been answering messages all day. The second the last one's done, your shoulders drop. You walk to the kitchen in silence. You don't put on music, you don't text anybody, you just make something warm and sit with it. And for the first time all day, your nervous system actually exhales. Sound familiar? That's not avoidance, that's recovery. And there's a chemical reason for it.
Your brain runs on different neurotransmitters depending on what kind of pleasure it's chasing. Dopamine is the loud one, the rush, the reward, the let's go. Acetylcholine is the quiet one. It rewards you for paying attention, for thinking, for sinking into something deep enough to lose track of time. Research suggests that people who lean towards solitude tend to be more sensitive to dopamine, which sounds backwards until you realize what that actually means. Their brains don't need a crowd to feel something. A crowd is already too much. So while everyone around you is out chasing dopamine in a loud bar, your brain is running on a slower, longer pathway that rewards depth instead of volume. Wild, right? You've been told you're missing out. But here's the flip side. While most people use social energy to feel something, you're already feeling everything. The conversation, the tone underneath it, the things somebody said that nobody else noticed. Your brain is doing more work in 5 minutes of socializing than most people's do in an hour. Of course you need to go home after. You just ran a marathon nobody else even saw you running. Your tiredness isn't weakness. It's processing.
And there's a second layer to this that most people never get to, because the assumption that this is just an introvert thing, it might be wrong. A study published in PLOS ONE looked across 2 diary studies to see whether introversion actually predicts who prefers being alone. And the results surprised the researchers. Whether you scored as introverted or extroverted didn't really predict it. Some classic extroverts deeply preferred solitude. Some classic introverts didn't. The thing driving the preference was something else entirely. It was the relationship you have with your own time. You can be in a room full of people and feel completely alone. You can be on your couch on a Tuesday night and feel more connected to yourself than you've been in weeks. Same person, different relationship to the same hours. Your brain isn't tracking who's in the room, it's tracking whether you're allowed to be the version of yourself you actually are.
Researchers at Durham University found something quietly powerful. Even 15 minutes of alone time you actually chose can lower the intensity of whatever you're feeling, the anxiety, the frustration, even the excitement, and bring you back to a calmer baseline. It's like an emotional volume knob. But there's one word in that sentence doing all the work: chosen. Solitude you pick on purpose settles your nervous system. Solitude that gets forced on you does the opposite. Same behavior, same couch, same hours, opposite effect. Most people don't realize that's the difference between I love being home and I feel trapped. It's the same room, different door. Think about a night you stayed home because you wanted to. You made something to eat, you read a few pages, you went to bed feeling like a person again. Now think about a night you stayed home because nobody invited you out. Same couch, same kitchen, totally different feeling. Your brain is not confused. It's answering a question most of us never ask out loud. Am I here because I want to be or because I have to be? Everything depends on that answer. But wait, it gets weirder.
A psychologist named Matthias Mail ran a study most people have never heard of. He recorded thousands of real conversations and tracked how happy the people having them were. He expected to find that the most social people would be the happiest. He didn't. What he actually found was that the people with the most meaningful conversations were the happiest, and small talk turned out to be basically neutral, not harmful, not helpful, just filler. He once compared small talk to the inactive ingredient in a pill. You need a tiny bit to hold the medicine together, but it's not what's doing the work. Translation? Most of the social activity you keep being told you should want, it's not actually the medicine. So when you skip the small talk dinner and stay in to actually think, you're not isolating. You've just done the math everyone else is pretending not to do. And here's the modern trap nobody talks about. You're alone in your room, but your phone is in your hand. You're scrolling through other people's lives, half watching, half thinking. Your brain isn't getting solitude. It's getting low-grade social input on a drip. The quiet you actually need is the quiet your phone keeps interrupting. That's why so many people spend hours alone and come out more tired, not less. They weren't alone. They were in a one-way conversation with 1,000 strangers.
You're not avoiding connection. You're avoiding the imitation of it. Both look identical from the outside. Only one feeds you. Now, this is the part that's harder to talk about because there's a thin, almost invisible line between solitude and isolation. Solitude restores. Isolation slowly eats at you. And the line isn't how many hours you're alone. It's whether you still feel like you could step back in whenever you wanted. The moment the door starts feeling locked from the outside instead of from the inside, that's when you check on yourself. There's a quieter signal too. Solitude tends to leave you feeling more like yourself. Isolation makes you feel further away from yourself. If you've stopped recognizing the person you are when you're alone, if the silence has started feeling heavy instead of clear, that's information, not failure, information. Honest moment. Even people who deeply love being alone need a few real conversations a week. Not a lot, but more than zero. Your brain still needs depth, just not volume.
But if you've been quietly worrying that something might be wrong with you because you'd rather be home than out, let the worry go. You're not antisocial, you're not avoidant, you're not depressed. You're someone whose brain processes the world deeply enough that more is rarely the answer. Quiet isn't your problem. It's the place where you actually start to think. The world rewards the loud and assumes the quiet ones are missing something. They're not. They're paying attention to what everyone else is too busy to notice. The conversation under the conversation, the mood in the room, the thing nobody said. You're not broken. You're just wired for depth over noise. If this hits something honest, the next one's going to do the same, and probably name a habit you've had since you were a kid and never had a word for. Click it. You'll see why.